evening and welcome to another screening of the graphic novel Picture Show. Today we are once again discussing one of my most hated characters. Someone who continues to be inexplicably popular despite being the worst superhero ever. I'm of course referring to Spider-Man. Specifically, the Amazing Spider-Man. No, we're not looking at the movie itself yet, but if you want my opinion on it now, it can never be as good as the Sam Raimi trilogy by virtue of the fact that it does not have noted Nosferatu and alleged owner of a giant monster dong, Willem Dafoe. Rather, today we're going to talk about the latest news out of Sony regarding their attempts to hop on board the Avengers train with their plans at creating a Spider-Man cinematic universe, with a Venom movie and a Sinister Six movie. This news will likely be met with mixed emotions from fans of the character who are glad to see his story get expanded, but would honestly much rather see him in the main Marvel Cinematic Universe, hanging out with the Avengers in stories that consistently range from good to fantastic. But unfortunately for everyone, that is not going to happen anytime soon. Sony is just making too much money doing their own thing for that to be a practical business decision. They will profit far more by making average movies with Marvel's most well-known character than they would by selling him back to Marvel. Now, this may seem like just another cynical attempt to recreate the success of the Avengers while completely failing to understand why it was successful or why people enjoyed it in the first place, and that's because it is. Unashamedly so. But unlike Warner Brothers, who's doing the same thing with DC, but has an entire pantheon of beloved characters to draw from, Sony is trying to do it with one character and all his related properties. The most obvious problem is that attempting to build a universe surrounding a single character severely limits the kinds of stories you can tell. That is to say, you can't have a movie that isn't directly linked to Spider-Man in some way. The Avengers didn't work simply because all these movies exist in the same continuity, or even because it was a superhero team-up. Avengers works because we start out with each character in their own movie individually. We get to know them, learn what they can do, what their rules are. It gives the viewer a sense of this huge, diverse world where things are happening all the time, and everything doesn't revolve around one guy in a cape. Then, Avengers comes along, and there's a threat that no one of them can defeat on their own. It raises the stakes and creates a believable situation for all these well-known characters to meet, and then it goes from there. So I guess the first issue with Sony's plan is that it literally always has to be Spider-Man adjacent. Venom's origin is indelibly tied to Spider-Man, and the Sinister Six was founded specifically to kill the Wallcrawler. A noble endeavor to be sure, but it won't provide that sense of scale that I mentioned before. It's less its own universe and more a series of spin-offs. The other problem I foresee people having is the fact that both proposed movies would have supervillains as the protagonist. This isn't something that bothers me personally, but then again, I love all four Pirates of the Caribbean movies, and The Secret Six by Gail Simone is my favorite comic book ever. They'd probably get around this with Venom by abandoning the alien symbiote concept entirely, choosing instead to use his Ultimate Comics origin, in which the Venom symbiote was a suit created by Peter Parker and Eddie Brock's fathers. If the trailer for The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is any indication, this seems to be what they're implying. A Venom movie would most likely be a Jekyll and Hyde type story, with Eddie Brock being taken over by the suit and fighting to keep control of his own body. Given what we know about Venom in the comics right now, my guess is that after spending a good portion of his movie in a murderous rampage, Eddie will assert dominance over the suit and become a hero. But, maybe it won't be exactly like The Incredible Hulk. A Sinister Six movie is a bit trickier. Since the success of the group's stated objective, killing Spider-Man, would end the series, we're left with a movie in which, from the start, the protagonists can only fail. Sure, tragedy is an entire genre of entertainment in which the protagonists fail, but this is not that. In a tragedy, there has to have been a chance for the main character to succeed. Hamlet has to come close to killing his uncle. You have to believe that Shepard had a chance to stop the Reapers, or that if Anne Frank hides long enough, the Nazis won't find her. Here, We know from page 1 that the Sinister Six can't possibly kill Spider-Man, so there's no drama in watching them try. But, perhaps I'm not giving the writers enough credit. Maybe they've got an idea for something that doesn't involve killing Spider-Man. Maybe they're looking to make a sort of Ocean's 11 style heist movie, but where all the criminals have superpowers. Though, that would be a fun, creative, and original idea. So, I should probably expect them to do literally anything else.
Spider-Man, Spider-Man, does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man. Is he strong? Listen, bud.